Get started. Good evening, everyone. Whether you're a long-standing meeting member or joining us for the first time, I'd like to tell you how excited I am that you're here. If our program tonight sparks your interest, please consider becoming a member of the NAACP of DeKalb County. It's members like you who keep our mission alive and our program thriving. I'm George Matlock. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee. And let me just tell you, I'm beaming with excitement about the upcoming year. The NAACP has been a beacon in my life since I was growing up in Brownsville, Tennessee. It is there where I first learned about Albert Williams, the first person associated with the NAACP to be lynched back in 1940s. His story continues to affect me and has led me to my path of advocacy. At the NAACP, our mission is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies, practices that extend human and civil rights, eliminating discrimination, and accelerating the well-being, education, and economic security of Black people and all persons of color. We envision an inclusive community rooted in liberation where all people can exercise their civil and human rights without discrimination. Tonight marks the start of our regular meeting, scheduled the second Tuesday of every month. We've got a year packed with engaging activities, networking opportunities, and plan to uplift the economics of the Black community by highlighting and spotlighting Black business leaders by sharing their stories and their insights. And for our quarterly speaker series, get ready to be inspired by titans of business. Through their leadership, we understand how to make a difference. Tonight, we're getting started with a bang. Mr. C.D. Moody Jr., whose journey in the world of construction is a testament to the resilience and vision you can accomplish. His company, C.D. Moody Construction, has not only handled over $3 billion, and yes, billion, in contracts, he has also been a pivotal shaper of Atlanta's landscape with the Olympic Stadium and Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mr. Moody's story of overcoming personal and professional challenges is deeply inspiring. You can follow him with his journey and his daily doses of inspiration on LinkedIn at CD Moody Jr. and on his Twitter at CDMJR. Moderating tonight's discussion is with Mr. Moody is the exceptional Dr. Lori Mans, a trailblazer in business consultancy and a champion for community causes. Her firm, Quality Media Consulting Group, has been instrumental in helping businesses achieve remarkable growth in both brand visibility and revenue. Dr. Mann's commitment to philanthropy is evident through her work with her Live Healthy and Thrive Youth Foundation. Stay connected with her and her insights on her LinkedIn at Dr. Lori Mans and her Twitter at Lori Mans. As we engage in tonight's conversation, I encourage you to follow these leaders online. Their social media platforms are treasure troves of wisdom, motivation, and real-world business acumen. Now, without further ado, I'd like to extend a hearty welcome to Dr. Lori Mans.
Well, thank you so much, George. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to the NAACP of DeKalb for this awesome invitation. Mr. David Moody, I am so excited to talk to you this evening. You are a true trailblazer in the Atlanta community, across the country and the world. And I have so much respect for you. So it's an honor to speak to you tonight. So we're going to just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we're here to talk about entrepreneurship and the effect of entrepreneurship on economic development in our community and society. And so I'm going to start at the beginning. I mean, you're from Michigan. I'm from Michigan. You came to Georgia in the 80s, and your first project was Underground Atlanta. And from that phase where you were at 1 million to now where you're at multi-millions, what has been your biggest lesson that you've learned in your entrepreneurial climb to success? What is the pinnacle for you? What's that lesson that you've learned?
Well, you know, Lori, first of all, Dr. Lori, thank you. I'm gonna call you Dr. Lori.
Actually, I grew up in
Chicago and I moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan in high school. So I'm from Chicago and Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I came actually to Morehouse in 1974. This is my 50th anniversary from high school. And I started Morehouse August of 1974. And
Wow.
then after I finished Morehouse, I went to Howard and got my degree in architecture. Then my wife and I came here in 83. So that's why you picked up the 80s, but I actually came in the 70s here.
Okay.
But you know, the lesson I'm probably most proud of and learn, being an entrepreneur, you don't realize the wear and tear and stress of making payroll. Because once you hire that first person, you're responsible for other people feeding their family, paying their bills, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And that is something that I didn't really understand. So yeah, we've done some great buildings over the last 36 years. We just celebrated 36 years on Sunday. But what I'm most proud
Congratulations.
about, I have never missed a payroll or been late with a payroll in 36 years. That means more to me than anything, to think somebody works all week and then you tell them you can't pay them. Man, I never could imagine doing that to anybody, because they're counting on that money to take care of their bills too. So to me, that is probably my greatest accomplishment. But the lesson learned from that was, being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of wear and tear. It's great rewards if things go well, but it's going to be years before you get there, and it is incredible wear and tear on you to be an entrepreneur and stay the course.
Right. Well, you know what? That kind of leads me to my next question, because, there are 5.2 million entrepreneurs in the USA as of just a couple of years ago. But one of the biggest challenges that people always state when they're starting businesses is lack of funding and lack of capital. And when you bring up, being able to pay people, I would imagine that recruiting and hiring people is another challenge. So what would you say are, some real challenges that entrepreneurship brings, that people just need to be aware of and maybe take for granted?
Well, I tell you what, you giving me some PSDT on this. Boy, you asking me questions I really don't like to think about anymore. But man, I you know what? When I say this, and I mean this with all my heart, God just had a plan for me, because I'm like most entrepreneurs, especially people of color. I started undercapitalized. I had enough to kind of make it maybe a month. And somehow we just always made it. A little project would fall in. I didn't pay myself much money. I made sure our people were paid. And boy, if a client didn't pay on time, boy, there was some tough times. But it is really tough being undercapitalized, because you stay in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in survival mode mentality much longer than I needed to, because you like, and you know how tough that is. But what I will say today, there is a lot more opportunities to do crowdfunding and raise money out there if you really got a good project, plan and business. But I'm like most of us, we go in business. I was a reluctant entrepreneur. I really didn't plan on going in business. But can I tell this quick story?
Yes.
Okay, so my wife and I we moved back here in 1983. Now, I had a really good job in Michigan with Bechtel Power Corporation. I was a staff architect, and they were one of the largest engineering construction companies in the world. They were 83 years old then, in 1981, when I started working for them. Well, I told my wife, hey, let's go to Atlanta, where I went to school. So I left this great job. My wife had been working at University of Michigan in Billings. My wife and I are the same age, but she was paying her way through school, so it was a long process for her. So I said, come on, let's go to Atlanta. I came to work for this small company, and 2 months after I got here, this company goes bankrupt. So now I don't have a job. My wife doesn't have a job. We went from doing good, we had been married 10 months, to now, I got to go find another job. We're struggling. I mean, it's getting crazy. So over the next 4 years, I worked for some small contractors. I'd find a better job that might pay $100 more or just fit me better. So the company I've been working for, the owner died unexpectedly, had a heart attack. So once again, I'm looking for a job. And I go to work for this small construction company, but they also had a bail bonding company. Here's where it gets interesting. The construction company was in the back of the bail bonding company. So I could be doing an estimate and if it was crowded, they could have somebody next to me in handcuffs. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. So, and I'm still really good friends with the family. But what happened one day, they say, hey, Dave, come on and go with us. Come and go with us. I'm thinking we're going to look at a project. And we get to this house and they open the trunk and they start pulling out these blue windbreakers. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? They said, man, you played football in college, so we need you at the back door. We're going to have the side windows and front door because we think we found one of our bail jumpers. And if he comes out the back door, we want you to take him down. I said, look here, let me tell you something. He come out the back door, he's free. I promise you he's free. I said, I'm in construction. This ain't what I do. So I went home and told my wife about it. We prayed about it. An opportunity came up. We scraped a couple of dollars together, and that's actually how I went in business. So wow. It was not really planned, but it was like, man, this is not what I want to do. Be a part-time bounty hunter while I'm working in construction.
Right. The accidental entrepreneur.
Yep.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely. I like that story because you were like, this is not me, what I'm meant to do. Because if he comes out this way, he's going to be free.
Oh, no, for real. There was never even, I told him, I said, guys, if he comes out, I'm going to be like a matador.
I don't blame you. So we're in regards to, those barriers, we've got lack of capital and cash flow. We've got, of course, the challenge of recruiting. And then, of course, the society we live in now, the economic turn that we're in now is inflation. But as you said, we have so many opportunities, and so many organizations, including the federal government, as well as, private organizations that give money away that you can go, and even there's crowdfunding that you can do on the internet.
Right.
So let's talk about what are some common mistakes that you see that entrepreneurs make along their journey that they just really are oblivious to, and you hear people, like when you talk to people starting out, or even as they are experienced 5 or 10 years in, what are some of the mistakes that you see people making, and you just know they're not going to last, or they're not going to get to that next level?
Well, first, what I'm going to talk about is not really mistakes, as it is most of us who go into business never are at a high level at a company to begin with. We're not president, vice president, or senior level. So there's a lot of things we just aren't aware of because we've never seen it. Mm-hmm. A lot of my competitors who don't look like me were big in other companies. They had client relationships. So when they started their business, they already had the relationships for work. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us are building relationships while we're trying to build a business. So, the other thing I think is many of us don't have the confidence in ourselves. We fake like we have it, mm-hmm. but most of us have never even seen an entrepreneur in our family or close to us. So when you don't see certain things, especially my generation, I'll be 68 next month. I never saw anybody other than Herman Russell doing what I'm doing. So as a kid in Chicago, I never even heard of a Black architect or a Black builder. And I went into construction. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer we are what we see. So when you don't see certain things that look like you automatically limit your expectations. That's why in all my posts, you always hear me say, dream big.
Yes.
Because I didn't dream big. I just wanted to have a good job.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not a mistake as it is we're not exposed to certain things. We don't have the relationships a lot of people have, and our confidence in ourselves is limited because we haven't seen it with people who look like us. Now, where I think a lot of us make mistakes, I always tell people when you first start your business, be job costs or be direct billing. What I mean by that, when I first started out, I was a project manager, superintendent, and estimator. I could bill for those things on the job. I was not overhead. I see a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, I see people who start a business, but they start off with a lot of overhead. And they're hiring people to do stuff that they should be doing. And so you'll pull all your cash real fast. So I'm a firm believer in the beginning, you should do some of the work that you can bill directly for, whatever that business is. I think the other, I don't want to call mistake, I think the other kind of not for the right reason. So often people go in business thinking it's going to be easy and they're going to make a bunch of money real quick. And you got to be willing to know it's going to be tough and stay the course. But if you have enough capital to raise, then it's a different ball game. But I'm talking to all of us who started a business or in business right now, undercapitalized, and you're just trying to hold on. So that's what I would say would be where I see people kind of go wrong or underestimate what it's going to take.
Yeah. I like what you said about building the relationships, and some people don't necessarily think of a lack of relationships as a mistake, but it truly is, because you never know where your next relationship will take you. And, community building in business is so important, not just in person, but online as well, because, we are in a digital society, and it's important to build relationships with people online as well as offline. So building relationships are critical and key. And of course, the confidence that you spoke about. And then, when you made the point about limiting your overhead, because when you're spending a lot of money hiring people that you really can't afford to hire, maybe you should, get some contractors or some temporary people, or whatever you have to do, or just like you said, assume some of those roles so that you can write that off. So great stuff there. I really, really enjoyed that. So let me ask you this: when it comes to that confidence piece, what is it that you would say helps an entrepreneur starting out in business to kind of get rid of that imposter syndrome and develop that confidence within themselves to feel like that they can really do it?
Well, I'll speak from personal, my own personal situation. I think we have to deal with the things that might be issues from childhood or adult. There's nothing wrong with having a therapist or a coach, somebody to really talk to. Now, one of the things I was very fortunate, and I'm still very blessed, my wife has been super supportive from day one. And this is the other important part. I didn't have a lifestyle I had to provide for her to be happy or me to be happy. So we could struggle. We could live off, a minimal amount of money. And I think that's so important. She would hug me when I need to be hugged, kick me in my butt when I need to be kicked in the butt. She kept telling me, we can make this, we can do this. And the other thing is she went to nursing school and became an RN, a registered nurse, and she did hospice for 20-something years. But she did that in the beginning so we could have a steady income. Because, even back in the 80s, early 90s, if you were a registered nurse, you could find a job. Right. So, and then she worked evenings and weekends. And in that way, we didn't have to spend money on the sitter. So because when she worked, I had the kids and vice versa. So we were completely a team from the start. And that makes so much difference. I mean, that's the one thing I think is important for entrepreneurs who are in relationships. Your partner got to be all in with you.
Yeah, that, like, touches on something that I didn't even have planned. How important is it to marry the right person if you're single? And how important is it to have that spouse who's all in and supports your entrepreneurial endeavors? Because I talk to and I meet so many, especially women entrepreneurs whose spouses are not all in with them on their entrepreneurial journey. And it even happens sometimes with men as well. What are some of the things that you would say to look for, when it comes to that spouse that is definitely going to be all in?
All right, for a person been married 41 years, this is my advice. One, you gotta like that person. Y'all gotta be friends. I don't care. Nobody says, my wife and I would hang out with each other if we weren't married. We like being with each other. And you gotta be able to communicate well, and you gotta hear each other, and you gotta be there for each other. I went through a complete nervous breakdown in '92, dealing with a childhood trauma, and the business was only 4 years old. My wife ran to me, not from me, and I've run to her over the years when she needed me to be there. And I think what you realize in this, and you learn this early in relationships, when there's a tough thing or something goes on, does that person run to you or run from you? If that person runs to you, then that's what you got, that person. Because some things we go through is just too much for some people. But I'm also a firm believer, I wouldn't recommend staying in one and it's not working, because I always tease, my wife and I tease each other. We love each other and we're like being with each other, but we get on each other's nerves sometimes. So we can't imagine what it would be like if you're in a relationship that's miserable. And I'm a firm believer this is an entrepreneur. You cannot be a really good entrepreneur if you don't have peace at home. One thing I know, 99.8% of the time when I cross my threshold, I got peace. So whatever I'm dealing with, business-wise, work-wise, I know I got 8 to 10 hours, whatever, of just some peace. And then I'm ready to go back in there. But if you battling it out at work, in your entrepreneurship, then you got to come home and battle too. Oh man, that'll wear you down, and one of them are gonna break, eventually, and maybe even yourself. You can, because the body will break on you if you're not careful.
Yeah, because you have to be able to handle the stresses and the pressures of
Right.
entrepreneurship and have that foundational support within your home life to help you address those things. So thank you for touching on that. So let's talk about what it's like to be an emerging entrepreneur and starting out. And then what is it like once you are 30, 40 years in, the lessons that you've learned as opposed to, from starting out to now. And, what has that been like,
I think about that often and laugh. I was a month shy of my 32nd birthday when I started this business. I was 31 and 11 months. And I laugh now because I didn't realize how naive and how green I was about life, about business. But I had a degree in architecture and I had worked in it for 7 years. So I knew the basics. I knew the product, but I didn't know the business part. And I think then, the project that really made me feel like I could do this when we got to the Olympic Stadium project. And we successfully built that as a joint venture and made good money. That's when I said, okay, this might be doable. But then what I realized when I got into the 20-something years in business, I started playing prevent defense. And what I mean by that, I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to lose what we had built. And what I found out eventually, I was losing because I wasn't, aggressively chasing work or doing this or doing that. And one of the things I learned about entrepreneurship, you can never lose what I call the hunter mentality, because we eat what we kill as entrepreneurs. You're always looking for that next client, next product, customer, whatever. And I had kind of lost that hunter mentality. Now I just wanted not to mess up. Now I'm at that stage where I know I'm on the back end of this. I'm getting the next generation ready. next 2 to 4 or 5 years, they'll boot me out, hopefully I'll be chairman. So you go from survivor, not wanting to mess up, to realizing you're on the back end of this. And, we just had our 45th reunion from college, from Morehouse, this past May. And I've lost 4 classmates since then. Wow. And 3 of them were very close to me. And one of them was my roommate and co-author of my book. So that's really been an eye-opener. And that's why I realized, you also got to have your exit plan, which I've always had, which I really hope our business can make it 100 years. I know I won't see it, but I really hope we've put this business in a place that generations can run it and make it profitable and, do good stuff in the community. But that's how big my dream has changed from when I started. Yeah. I just wanted to survive.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you go from, just wanting to make it work and not mess up and just survive day to day, to wanting to become that real mentor and leave legacy. And of course, you touched on the exit plan, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't start businesses with the idea in mind. Let me think about how I'm going to get out of this when the time comes to get out of it. So I love that. And when it comes to the last question I wanted to ask you, actually the second to last, I don't know how much more time I have, George, but I wanted to ask about, one of the big projects that you've done was the Olympic Stadium. Now, that was a joint venture partnership. Talk to me about what it's like as an entrepreneur to collaborate and partner with other companies and organizations. How important is that in scaling your business and doing those joint ventures?
They're very important to scale them, but you got to get the right partners. I've had some bad ones, but I've been fortunate to have some really good ones. To me, joint ventures are like a good relationship. There are some, unfortunately, there are some people who want, they want to use us and tell us to go sit in the corner. And but don't ask me no questions. I ain't gonna show you no books or nothing. I've been fortunate. My partners have always respected us, but we also brought people to the table. We always carried our end of the deal. And they knew we were real builders. So it's important that you get the right people, but it will help you scale big time. I mean, we're in 5 states now. We're in Ohio, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. And, we're definitely one of the top Black GCs in the whole country.
So just give me like a couple of tips as to what you want to look for when you are seeking those types of partners.
Okay, I always tell people this: spend some time with them and see, do you like them as a person? Do you feel you can trust them?
Okay.
Do they respect you? Do you respect them? Will they allow you to grow? Or do they want to just put you in a corner and say, all right, here's my minority partner, but don't talk? So those are the things you got to look at. And, do they treat you in a way that they want you to grow and scale your business? That to me would be probably the most important part. And they're going to treat you fairly and show you everything so you learn and bring that knowledge back to your company.
Right. So being transparent, giving you that respect as an equal partner, and making sure that you trust them and you admire their business acumen. Those are very, very good things. So as we wrap up, tell us what would be your best advice for any entrepreneurs who are emerging, starting out. Mr. Seasoned, I've been at this 40 years. What are you going to say to those emerging entrepreneurs starting out in the game today?
I mean, realistically, I would say believe in yourself more than anything. Be willing to put the work in. Keep learning. No, it's not going to be easy. But I think the biggest thing I would tell them is we're all built and made to be incredible. And we're all much stronger than we realize. We don't realize how strong we are till we have to be strong. Like I said, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last year, and that was the craziest 8 days of my life. Right. But I did it for all the people who deal with trauma. I did it because I wanted to face all my triggers of what, you know, high altitude makes you feel like you're having panic attacks and all that. And I wanted to face all of it and to keep pushing myself. So those are the things that are so important that we do. So I think the biggest thing I would tell young entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter your age, I'm talking about young in the becoming entrepreneurs or in the middle of it, don't give up until you know you can't make it anymore. I mean, if you're gonna run out of money or go broke or bankrupt, yeah, move on. But just because it's tough, but you can financially still weather that, don't give up, because the beauty is coming right before you give up. And you'll be surprised what you can do if you believe in yourself, and also surround yourself around people who believe in you. And the other thing I tell people is live beneath your means.
Yes.
You gotta live beneath your means. I mean, that is so key. One of the best things that ever happened to my wife and I when we had our children, this was 1985, 1986. They were 21 months apart. I was making $35,000 a year. My wife wasn't working. And we decided, hey, because she, you know, stopped working for the children. And when we looked at childcare and stuff, we said, look, it's cheaper for us to stay home and for you to stay home and struggle. And we learned to live on so little. But we bought a pass to the zoo for the family. We bought a pass to Stone Mountain. We bought a pass to Sidetrack, the old museum that was here. We bought a pass to, you know, Six Flags. So we might have spent maybe $200 to $250 for 4 passes. And every weekend we were at one of those places. So we learned how to do stuff cheap or no cost, like go to Piedmont Park and stuff like that. I mean, like I just took my grandson to Stone Mountain Park recently. He's 2 years old. And I had him on the same slide that I had his mother and uncle on, you know, 35 years ago. You know, so, you know, we bought the family pass for him so we can jump on the train and all that stuff. So I think the biggest thing is to live beneath your means. But the other thing is be present. Don't be so wrapped up in your business that you're not present. And what I mean by that, there were times I was physically present, but that was it. I wasn't emotionally present because I'm thinking about something going on a project, payroll, or something else going on in life. And if you're not careful, you'll miss a whole lot of stuff. So I work real hard when I'm with friends, family, or anything. I am 100% present, and I can feel that energy that's going on and not be somewhere else mentally.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. And all of that is great. Being present, you know, living below your means, and just everything you said about, you know, your experience as an entrepreneur. So thank you so much for sharing. And I know being a part of professional organizations is also something that's important for you as well. As we wrap it up and turn back over to Mr. George Matlock, thank you for this opportunity.
No, and I have a couple of questions. So one of my personal questions is that, and I'm learning and dealing with this, is learning to compete. You know, I'm in a very competitive environment, whether it's pricing or product. I'd love to get this perspective from both of you guys. And I have another question that's in the chat, and anyone who wants to put some questions out there. But when you look at your industries and you're looking to compete from a pricing, from a product, what's your differentiator, and how did you learn to compete and compete at the level of $3 billion, or compete from a marketing perspective? So I'd love to have both of you guys answer that question for me personally.
Dr. Mann, you want to go first?
Well, I was gonna let you go first, but I'll go
Okay.
first. So
it's up to you.
Okay. Well, my philosophy is never compete on price. I feel like when you compete on price, you actually lower your value, and you really get into what a bidding war could be like, right? I feel like it's important to compete on value and the transformation that you're going to bring to that client, the problem that you're going to solve for them, and what is the transformable result that you're going to give them that they simply cannot get elsewhere. What are you bringing to the table that they simply cannot get from their competitor or your competitor down the street? Because when you compete on price, you're just going back and forth and it's a numbers game. I think in the sales world where I come from, it's really always about unique value proposition. You know, what is unique about you, your company, your brand, your business, and what you have to offer that is somewhat different than what your competitor can say. And then you're going to sell based on that result that you're going to give them in exchange for their investment. So I'm not somebody who competes on price. My price is my price. And I see it as, you know, whatever I am giving you in terms of value, my job is to show you what the value is and what's in it for you so that price is not a factor.
And you know, I'm piggyback what she's saying. I don't believe you price yourself out of business if you're not careful. But you also got to realize, like during the Great Recession, 2009, 10, 11, the big boys who were doing billions a year in my industry, they were coming down. They used to then chase the work I was doing. Mm-hmm. When they came down there and they started taking the work at 1% or 0, I couldn't compete with them anyway. Mm-hmm. But see, that's the other thing when the market shifts and recessions and stuff. That's why you got to build up your war chest and live beneath your means, because you don't want to take work and know you're going to lose money. That don't make sense. Right. But I tell there have been a number of people I go, look, you know, I'd love to look at your project, but you know, we're going to be too expensive because I know what I pay my folks. And it's not that we're making too much, but I pay my folks real well with good benefits. So I know, so you have to also look at the clientele you're after to give the returns you need to get. Not everybody can afford, you know, certain things. That's why you have different levels of all businesses.
Yeah.
Now, here's a good question from Steve in the chat. He says, what can we do as a Black community to support you? And what is your next major Atlanta project? I'd love to hear that from both of you.
All right. You want to go first, Doc? You want me to go?
You go first. You're the guest.
All right. First of all, I'm going to say this. I used to be a member of Dekalb, NAACP. I need to get my membership back because I appreciate what y'all doing. So, George, get with me so I can get my membership back. Because without the NAACP and so many other folks, I wouldn't even be having this conversation today. Okay. So I never forget the people who marched, who died for me to have this opportunity. I think the best way you can support us, and I'm going to say this because I've watched this. We're so hard on each other, but we don't say things about other people who don't look like us in business or something. And I'm going to give you an example. I sit on the board of Citizens Trust Bank, and I heard some people tell me one day, man, you know, the line was too long or whatever. So I'm one of these people who go and check stuff. There's a, was that bank, Covington and Panola? I can't think which one it is now, Bank America, whatever. I would go up there sometime on a Friday on payday, and I would watch us stand in line out the door, and nobody ever complained. But when they came to CTB and we had 5 people, your line's too long. And I get that example how hard we are on each other, you know. And so I think we got to give a good product. Don't get me wrong. We got to give a good service. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I feel we're very hard on each other that we give other people a pass on. And I think that's one of the hardest things we have to work on is demand, you know, good product, but let's also have grace with each other. Mm-hmm. The same grace we give the people who don't look like us. And I hope I'm making sense what I'm saying.
Absolutely. You're making perfect sense. I can piggyback on that. How can people of color, Blacks, support Blacks? Just buy Black. Not to say that you can't by non-Black, but make it a concerted effort, an intentional effort to support Black business. When you have something, that goes wrong in your house, when you have something that goes wrong in your business, you need a consultant, you need a accountant, an attorney, look for someone who is Black owned, and there are so many people who are professional in so many different industries, and you can become a member of the chamber, the member of NAACP, and connect with Black businesses. And so, I am a Black business owner. I'm celebrating 14 years in business this month, and actually, hosting an event. You guys are welcome to come. It's the Trailblazer Business Summit. I'll put the link in the chat, but it's support Black business and support particularly minorities, not just, Black, but, women as well. It's pretty simple. Just put your money where your mouth is.
And we have to want, as business owners, I think one of the best things we also can do is work hard to deliver an incredible product. I mean, that's one thing I work on. Another thing I'm proud of, my company is 98% people of color, and we have 11 different HBCUs in my company. Because I'm one of those folks, if I don't hire us, who will? And give you really great opportunities for exposure and stuff. There are many of the large projects I go on, and I never see anybody of color in key spots. And I'm just a firm believer we have to give each other opportunities to excel and expose them to stuff so they can excel.
Yeah, that's something we didn't talk about, diversity and inclusion. It's not, they're doing everything to overturn,
Right.
equal and equitable hiring and access for minorities. But, that's very important in business, because I can tell you, when I'm doing business with a company, I look for diversity. I want to see how many women they got working there. I want to see how many African Americans. I even look for Hispanic and Asian. I want to see everybody. I want to see the rainbow, So I think it's very important, to hire diverse people and diverse backgrounds. And of course, like you said, deliver a great product.
I saw a question from Irving, and I want to reply. I go out my way helping other people. I've had a number of folks who work for me who are not entrepreneurs in construction. I send work to them all the time. I'm probably the one thing I remember when I was struggling to make ends meet. I know how lonely that feels. And I just made a promise, I would always do what I could to help others. Plus, it is a ton to go around. And I'm a firm believer that greed it will choke you. And I'm also a firm believer in my faith that what I put into the universe comes back. And I'm just a firm believer. I never know when I might need a hand. So if I put enough into the universe of helping others, when it's my turn, somebody's hand will be there to help me. But that, and that's just how I am. And believe it or not, in construction, we tend to be very helpful with each other because it is a lot to go around. When I say a lot, we can't get to everything. And construction does a pretty good job of referring each other or recommending each other to other people.
Yeah, and I think servant leadership is critical in entrepreneurship. I've gotten some of my best opportunities from actually in volunteering my services for certain people who I knew I could learn from and who could mentor me. And so, when you offer to do something for free, that's giving of your time and or talent, that person is going to remember you when they get that big contract or when they get that big opportunity. And they're going to remember that you're in business to make money, but they're also going to remember that you volunteered and you were interested in serving and not just out for what you could get.
Real quick,
go ahead.
Doc, you said something real important. People underestimate how people watch you. And do you do other things to help others, or how did you react in these situations? You never know who's paying attention and watching, and it makes a big difference if you're a person who gives. So a lot of times when young folks, when I say young, I'm talking about young as entrepreneurs, ask me, well, what do you recommend I do? I go, hey, you should join Atlanta Business League, NAACP, GMS, and go to the meetings, get involved, let people see who you are, and volunteer some of your time, and you'll be surprised what'll come from that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a great lead in for me to thank both of you guys and give you your flowers for volunteering for me tonight. I made a call, I put out some text messages, and you both just readily available and said, how can we help? And I'm just so appreciative that you guys would come, share your talent, share this wealth of knowledge. I've learned, I hope to grow my business just from the information that you both shared and my relationship with both of you. So thank you. It was phenomenal. I would be remiss if I didn't let our president at least address us, who was gracious to join my first committee meeting. So I may be doing something right, or I'm gonna get a call after this. It's gonna be one or the other, so we shall see. But President Clayton, please address us.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm grateful that you guys are here too. I've been getting calls saying you all got some wonderful speakers on. I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of George stepping up and stepping in and just really getting to work. A lot of people ask, what is the NAACP doing? Well, it's a lot of our work is done in committee. We have about 12 or 14 committees that address health. We address politics, policies. We address community activities. We have a lot of things going on, and we need everyone's help. And another thing, our organization is ran on membership only. All of us are volunteers. We don't need people looking on, asking us what we're doing. We need to be asking them, how are they going to help us? We need help right now, getting people to the polls, telling them why it's important to vote. But I'm grateful for you all being here tonight. I could relate to some of this, what you were saying, because I too have my own business, and I'm grateful that I'm also retired. So that was my capital. That was everything I needed right there to go into real estate. I'm a real estate broker, so I'm never without income coming in, and I'm grateful for that. But I see a lot of my friends on here, and I'm grateful you all joined this committee meeting. Just overwhelmed with this, because it's been a long time since we had this committee going. So I'm grateful, George, that you took the rim and you handled it and you going on about your business. And thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, President. And I know Steve is on here. Steve, I was trying to unmute you and let you just shout out, which is one of my fellow chairs of a committee, and let him just highlight his committee as well and some of the stuff they're doing. Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Yes, thank you. So, hello, everyone. My name is Steve Paris. I am the chair of the Community Coordination Committee for NAACP Dekalb. And my committee is the Coalition Building Committee. So, we work to build relationships with other organizations in DeKalb County, as well as other NAACP branches. And I want to invite everybody out to our Unity Breakfast that's going to be happening on April 20th. We're looking for sponsors for our ad book. So if anyone is so inclined, please go ahead and buy something for our ad book. And then also this coming Friday is going to be a meeting with the U.S. Patent Office, which has a program that is trying to help underrepresented entrepreneurs and inventors get their patents filed. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And thank you all for being here.
No, Steve, thank you, Dad. And I hope I'm not missing anyone, but I don't want to take too much of you guys' time. So I do want to just thank you all for attending. We're really getting this started and getting some momentum. I did want to highlight every second Tuesday of the month is our meeting at 7 p.m. Our next meeting, we will actually have Curtis Evans, who is with Amazon Web Services, and he's going to be demystifying AI for us for small business, which I'm trying to understand. I know others are trying to understand, and Amazon is at the forefront. And this is one of the young just amazing African-American minds that is driving AI at Amazon. So that position, person speaks no more than saying you need to really attend. So that will be May 14th, I think is the date. So again, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for supporting us. In the chat again is that jot form. If you'll scan that jot form, fill out that form. I would love to correspond with you guys as we look to kind of build out our committee. And I really want to thank Dr. Lori Manns and C.D. Moody Jr. for coming out, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, your support. And I'm following up with you, Mr. Moody, on that membership to the NAACP.
Oh no, that's a done deal, brother.
Yeah, we've got to get our membership. We as President Clayton said, we are really here to drive our support for the community, and we do that through our membership. So I would love it if everyone would consider renewing or starting your membership with NAACP Dekalb. But thank you guys. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you guys next month.
All right,
Thank
peace.
you so
All
much.
right. Thank you so much.